I graduated university last year and wrote my thesis regarding the ever-growing gap between owners and fans of European football clubs, especially with the rise of owners not being familiar with the structure and culture of European football. The one thing I regret in that thesis is that I should have predicted what was going to quickly happen with women's football. Like, I already talked about this monstrosity of a rebrand, then Michele Kang hits me with something worse. Like, I'm not even gonna say it. Lyon is actually the club that first got me into women's football, all because of Ada Hegerberg. Watching a Norwegian become the best football player in the world and lift the Champions League trophy, that was huge for me. So Olympique Lyonnais has always had a special place in my heart. Lyon's a club that truly cared about women's football, investing in it far beyond anyone else for over a decade, because Jean-Michel Aulas, the owner of Lyon's club teams, believed in it so much. Which is why I was so scared when Michele Kang bought the club. This rebrand of one of the most historic clubs in women's football is insulting. Yes, investment is good. We need people putting money into the game. But how you invest, and what you do with the legacy you're taking on, that matters just as much. Rebranding Lyon proves that Kang may do more harm than good in her investments. To understand this, we need to go into the history of Olympique Lyonnais Féminin. The team we know today was actually started in 1970 as part of another local French club, FC Lyon, a multi-sport club that was founded by students of a local university back in 1893 that's still around today. Rugby, football, basketball, you name it, they have it. Women's football in France has been around for a very long time. The current Archema Premier League that we're all familiar with was actually founded back in 1919. However, it disappeared in 1933, then was created again in 1974. 3 years later, in 1977, FC Lyon gained promotion to the league for the first time. Their ascent to the top of the Women's League took a while, but they finally captured the club's first league title in 1991. Soon after this, they started attracting the top talent in France. They would go on to win the league 3 more times, 1993, 1995, and 1998. By the early 2000s, the landscape of women's football was changing. Women's teams were starting to get absorbed into bigger men's football clubs like Montpellier and Toulouse for monetary investment. PSG Women was also promoted to the top flight in 2001. FC Lyon, for all its success, wasn't a huge club. They didn't have the financial muscle to keep pace with these new, better-funded sides. Enter Jean-Michel Aulas. He had taken over Olympique Lyonnais, the men's club, back in 1987 and had already turned them into serial winners by the early 2000s. Right in his backyard was FC Lyon's women's team, clearly talented, with European potential, but under-resourced. In 2004, Olympique Lyonnais and Aulas acquired the women's side from FC Lyon with similar aspirations he had for the men's side, to make them champions again. Aulas listened to his women's players and started to see inequities between the women's and men's side. He committed to building one club, not a men's team and a women's team, but Olympique Lyon. Full stop. A lot of what motivated him was fighting to, quote, get comparable and equal investment between all players, regardless of their gender, by providing full and equal investment in equipment, infrastructure, and logistics. Since Lyon was a major football club, they had the means to do it. Unsurprisingly, this strategy worked out. The club quickly rose to the top of the league again, winning the league title for the first time under the name Olympique Lyonnais in the 2006-07 season. That same year, the men's team also won the league, a men's and women's double, something unheard of at the time. From there, total domination. Lyon didn't lose a league title until the 2020-21 season. That's 14 straight seasons as French champions. It was the result of a vision, commitment, and belief in women's football, something that's too often missing even today. The club started acquiring and developing some of the best French players in the world as Lyon and Aulas took over. Wendy Renard joined the club as a teenager back in 2006, but the most notable signing at the time was actually Camille Abely. Abely had been playing at Montpellier, who were perennial UEFA Women's Cup Champions League contenders. Yet, despite never qualifying for European football, Lyon were able to lure her in. Their first league win as Olympique Lyonnais Féminin qualified the club for the UEFA Women's Cup for the first time in club history, the precursor to the Champions League, obviously. To prepare for the Champions League, Lyon got busy. Future French legends Audeline Henry, Louisa Nassib, and Elodie Thomas all joined the project in 2007. Their first 2 seasons, they ended up as semi-finalists, but broke into the final in the 2009-10 Champions League season, losing to Turbine Potsdam. Lyon were not satisfied, bringing in Amel Majri in 2010 and Eugène Le Sommer, the latter, of course, becoming one of the greatest women's footballers in history. Sarah Bouhaddi also joined the club the year before, becoming a world-class keeper. I think it's easy to forget now because in this day and age, many women's football clubs are signing some of the best players every year. But Lyon doing this at the time was unprecedented. They tirelessly scouted talent in France and found the players that would take the women's game to the next level. And it wasn't just players. Their training and facilities were unmatched by any other club in Europe. The next season, Lyon got their revenge on Turbine Potsdam in the 2010-11 Champions League final, 2-0 in front of a crowd of 14,000, officially starting their dynasty. The club repeated the next year in Germany against Frankfurt, this time in front of 50,000 fans. But for the next 3 years, the German clubs hit back in the Champions League with the emergence of Wolfsburg, and Lyon didn't make it out of the round 16 for 2 years. International signings were obviously not a new thing at the time in women's football, but Lyon rightfully saw it as crucial in order to get to the top of Europe. They knew they could offer the players more professionalism than the German clubs, so they did. In 2013, the club brought in Japanese midfielder Saki Kumagai from Frankfurt. The next year, in 2014, they made arguably the most important signing in the history of women's football, a teenage Ada Hegerberg from Turbine Potsdam. They reclaimed the Women's Champions League in the 2015-16 season and never looked back, winning it 5 times in a row, bringing their total Champions League titles to 7. Crucially, their win in 2015-16 was won primarily by French players. Only 4 players in the whole squad were other nationalities. But the 3-time Champions League winning squad was getting older, with Nassib retiring after 2016. Wolfsburg, the club who they beat in the final, was much more international. Lyon took note and responded by also expanding globally, bringing in elite international talent, Jennifer Marjon from Germany, Kadisha Buchanan from Canada, and Alex Morgan from the United States, all in 2017. This is what defines Lyon. Always staying ahead. Even at the top, they kept adapting. That's how they won 5 straight Champions Leagues. But in 2021, they didn't make it to the final. Instead, the world watched Barcelona dismantle Chelsea, and suddenly, for some reason, the media started calling Lyon a thing of the past. A fading giant, even though it was only 1 year? Some newer women's football fans even counted them out ahead of the final against Barcelona in the 2022 Women's Champions League. But Lyon reminded the world exactly who they were with a commanding win, getting their 8th Champions League title against Barcelona in the final. This is the house Jean-Marc Aulas built. Olympique Lyon, intrinsically tied to the city of Lyon. There's a reason why Ada Hegerberg has called him the game changer. In her words, Aulas wasn't just a game changer for Lyon, but for women's football in general. Without Olympique Lyonnais and their owner, women's football would not be where it is today. The club continuously raised the bar of what was expected to be the top of Europe, forcing other clubs to invest and professionalize if they wanted a shot at them. The very reason we see Barcelona as the force it is today is because of the 2019 Champions League final loss to Lyon. The club had a sit-down and changed everything they did, specifically their training, in order to get to the point where they could challenge Lyon. After Lyon's win in the 2022 Women's Champions League final, everything changed. Aulas sold the club, men's and women's team, to the American John Textor. Aulas would still be the president though for another year before stepping down, officially ending a 36-year era at the club. Less than a year after the initial sale, a majority stake in the women's team, almost 53%, was sold to American businesswoman Michele Kang. Kang's involvement in women's football started in 2020 back in the United States, when she became part owner in the NWSL club Washington Spirit with 35% in the franchise. However, following the NWSL abuse scandals of 2021, she started pursuing majority ownership of the club and got it late March of 2022. Now, if you ask any football fan what their biggest fear is in football right now, there's a good chance they will say multi-club ownership. Well, Kang decided to bring that into the women's game more. She announced plans to buy the majority stake to Lyon Féminin around a year later. However, Lyon had actually owned a different NWSL team, OL Reign, in Seattle. Obviously, you cannot own 2 NWSL teams, so Lyon and Kang promptly sold the club and it became Seattle Reign FC. Later that year, right before 2024, she then bought the London City Lionesses in the English Championship, a club that was founded in 2019. Sorry, I just hated how the press release from the Spirit sounded. Michele Kang, owner of the Washington Spirit, announced today the signing of an agreement to create the first of its kind global multi-team women's football organization. Kang will become the majority owner and CEO of the newly formed company, making it the first ever woman-owned, woman-led multi-club football organization. Can we not girl boss multi-club ownership? It's a bad thing! So, I was very nervous when Kang became the owner of Lyon, mostly because I was devastated Aulus was leaving his leadership role. Yes, Kang would invest, but I doubted she wouldn't understand what it takes to be a European football club. It's much different than NWSL clubs because of the history and identity these clubs have with their cities. And unfortunately, I was right to be worried. A few days ago, Kang announced that she was changing the name and branding of the club away from Olympique Lyonnais, despite its history. This really solidified the separation from the men's side of the club. And that's not entirely surprising since Kang has said before that she believes separating women's teams from their men's counterparts is better for the women's game. But as someone currently studying the football industry, I have to say, I strongly disagree. You have brand recognition that's global. Olympique Lyonnais means something in both men's and women's football, and you're just throwing it out? So now Olympique Lyonnais is being called OL Lyonnes or Olympique Lyonnais Lyonnes? I don't know, man. Here's the thing. From the French language standpoint, this doesn't make any sense. If you speak French, please correct me, but Lyonnes is just like not a word. Apparently, Lyonnes is a play on the English term lionesses, but Kang replaced the I with a Y to connect it to the men's club and the city of Lyon, but why are you bringing an English word into this? Well, we know why. She's trying to connect it to her club, London City Lionesses. I hate multi-club ownership. We want to emphasize that lionesses are different than lions. Shut up! Kang looked at Olympique Lyonnais Féminin and saw that Lyonnais is a masculine objective and tried to feminize it, assuming it needed to be gendered to reflect a women's team. But that just misses the point. The name Lyonnais isn't really supposed to refer to a gender, it was supposed to be an allusion to the city of Lyon. That's what the club name has always represented. No one was asking for a gendered twist on it. The history, the brand, the legacy, all tied to Olympique Lyonnais as a name. Kang argues that Olympique Lyonnais Féminin didn't make sense because Lyonnais is a masculine term, and then she replaced it with something that makes even less sense linguistically. Like, they just announced the signing of German wonder kid rebrand from Wolfsburg, and they called her a Lyonnais or whatever, right? Everyone in the comments is fighting back because that's not a word! Also, just look at the graphics of the transfer. The logo looks so wrong. There's a clear difference in quality between the Wolfsburg logo and the new Lyon logo. Look how dumb this looks! There's a section in the announcement video where Brand is wearing the training top with the real Olympique Lyon logo, and it just looks so clean, and it hurts we actually won't get to see her really wear this. Like, look at the difference in quality of these badges. The regular one is perfect. Lyon posted a video of players talking about the change, and you can tell that the players hate the rebrand. Like, Lyon has been Sama Bacha's team since youth, right? Like, that's her club. The first thing she talks about is the importance of the old logo to her. Hegerberg also brings up the history of the club first and foremost, and she looks like she's being held at gunpoint while saying she's excited for the change. And I don't blame them. This is incredibly disrespectful to what they achieved as Olympique Lyon. Michele Kang is coming from the American financial sector. She doesn't understand why Olympique Lyonnais might be a little different than running a Washington Spirit, which is a franchise, not a club, which has something to do with history, culture, and identity in Europe. The media is trying to paint her as some kind of investor hero, women's sports, a girl boss billionaire. But at the end of the day, a billionaire is still a billionaire, and this rebrand, it's proof of that. Lyon isn't a franchise. It's a sporting institution. And this new logo, it looks like something straight out of an NWSL expansion pitch. This doesn't strengthen Lyon's branding. It hurts it. Women's football would not be where it is today without Olympique Lyonnais and all the players that wore the badge. And this branding just removes all the soul. It also removes it from the city, which, again, shows a fundamental misunderstanding of European football culture. Why do I say this? The announcement video text was primarily in English. Look, as someone who can only speak 2 languages, it's good to have English subtitles because Lyon definitely has an international audience. But the main text, that should have been in French. This is a French football club. And if you don't think that language matters, it does. Clubs in Europe are built around identity, and that identity is deeply, deeply regional. Olympique Lyonnais' identity is its city, its history, its legacy of winning. This rebrand tosses that aside. So now I have to ask, if it's not connected to the city and its relationship to the club, and it's not tied to its history, then what identity does this new Lyon even have? Michele Kang is undoubtedly investing in women's sports. However, I have had an uneasy feeling about her for a while, and I'm saying this as a rugby player. When it was announced that she'd be donating $4 million to the USA Women's Rugby Sevens team, I was happy. But it was really weird because it was their moment at the Olympics and she kind of just inserted herself. She is clearly doing all this investing to posture. She likes to be in the videos, especially following a team win. Like, look at her in the London City Lionesses promotion celebrations. Like, what? She knows that investing in women's sports is good PR. That's why she's doing it, not because she cares. If she actually cared, she'd learn more about the history of Olympique Lyonnais. And now we have someone messing with a French football club's identity, a complete slap in the face of its local fans who identify with Olympique Lyonnais and the players. Clubs are not franchises. And Michele Kang severing the branding connection to Lyon implies that the club was always separate from the men's side, which is bullshit. The club is for everyone. And this is where American investors, especially from franchise-based sports systems, really don't get it. In European football, a club's connection to its history and community matters. It's everything. I think this tweet really sums up my thoughts. Trying to trailblaze and create new identities doesn't work well in European football. And I hate you doing this in a feminism narrative, because now you just ripped away the identity of community. There's nothing feminist or trailblazing about that. Anyway, that's my take. I hope you enjoyed this video. What are your thoughts on the rebrand, or on Kang in general? I'm always open to new content ideas also, so please let me know what you want to see next. Thank you so much for watching.